been an outstanding 2024 election. I had the privilege of personally visiting 31 of the 177 precincts today, and I can report to you that I saw no unusual problems, no major problems whatsoever. Our workers were courteous, they were professional, and they were well-trained and took care of business. Now, we are aware that there were several bomb threats. Those threats were handled professionally by our chief, and you'll hear from him in a few minutes. As a result of that, 5 of the 177 precincts will be staying open a little later, a little later, meaning after 7 p.m., anywhere from 10 minutes to 45 minutes, based upon the time that they were closed. So I am personally well pleased, thrilled with the results of today's election, and I will give Fulton County, Georgia, an A for the great work that we've done. I'd like you to hear from the chair of our Board of Registrations and Elections, Ms. Sherry Allen.
Good evening, good evening. Yesterday I said that you were going to see the best run elections in Fulton County, and I think you have. We did have bomb threats, we had control criminal activity, but there weren't waiting lines. Things were resolved fast for voters. I personally went out to sites when there were problems and resolved and talked to managers. I want to thank all of the poll workers, all of the poll managers, all of the monitors, all of the poll watchers, everyone who helped make this a safe, secure, transparent, and accurate election. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'm going to introduce the chair of the State Election Board, John Rivera.
Well, I really don't do interviews, so I guess I'm going to do all of them at once tonight. My name is John Freer. I'm chairman of the State Election Board. I want to talk about the great things that I've seen, because over the last couple of weeks I've had a chance to go across Georgia, from South Georgia to North Georgia, and talk to election superintendents across the state and visit over 20 polling locations. And every one that I've been to, all I've seen is good things. I've seen some extremely dedicated poll workers, extremely dedicated superintendents and poll managers, and I am was not the greatest election in 2020, but Fulton County hopefully is going to have a great one this year. I have confidence in them, and I'm appreciative for all that they've done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. Director of Elections, Ms. Nadine Williams.
Good evening. On behalf of the Fulton County Department of Registration and Elections, I want to extend our sincere gratitude to the poll workers and election staff for their dedication to conducting today's successful election. We want to provide a special thank you to the County Manager, Board of Commissioners, Board of Registration and Elections, and the numerous Fulton County departments that supported us in this important effort. We planned, we prepared, and we delivered. Today, over 92,000 voters cast their ballots, adding to the 417,000 who participated in advanced voting, and more than 26,000 absentee by mails that were accepted. These numbers surpass the total turnout for the 2020 election. Despite a few attempted disruptions, our staff and poll workers remain steadfast in their commitment to ensuring a smooth process. In regards to these disruptions, there will be 5 precincts that have to remain open past the 7 o'clock poll closing. Those locations are C.H. Gallant Elementary School, which will remain open until 7:15. Etris Darnell Community Center, which will remain open until 7:45. Lake Forest Elementary School, which will remain open until 7:10. Southwest Arts Center, which will remain open until 7:43. And Northwood Elementary School, which will remain open until 7:45 p.m. Those dates, those locations and times are posted on our website and have been posted at the precincts. So now we are going to proceed with the election night tabulation, and we'll post final results tonight on our website when completed. You should be able to see the advanced voting and the absentee by mail results before 8 today. And again, we thank everyone who made this election possible.
All right, now our police chief of Fulton County, Georgia, Chief Yates.
Good evening. As I told you yesterday, we had 177 voting locations that we put. Hold it up. Is that better?
Yes, a lot better.
Good evening. As I told you yesterday, we had 177 polling locations, and we placed an officer at each one. That wouldn't have been possible without the help of every law enforcement agency within Fulton County coming together to make that happen. We planned heavily for the incident of a bomb threat being called in, and it's a good thing we did, because that's the only thing that happened today was 32 bomb threats at different polling locations. 32. We were able to clear 27 of them very quickly without the need for an evacuation. 5 of them, the polls were temporarily closed down at the poll manager's request while we conducted the sweep, and they were reopened. We don't know where the threats came from at this point, and it is an active investigation, but we do intend on doing our best to locate who made the threats and prosecute them fully. Thank you.
Now, County Manager Dick Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I just want to wrap up at least 4 questions by telling you how much preparation went into tonight and today and all of the advanced voting. Starting in 2020, we began a whole of government approach. While the tip of the spear is Board of Registration and Election, it involved every aspect of Fulton County with a clear expectation set by our chairman and the rest of the board that we would have a tremendous experience for voters and a free and fair election, which we've obviously accomplished. Everything that went into it, from this building that you stand in, to the technology that was used, to the processes that were planned and practiced, to our leadership. And I want to give a special recognition to Nadine Williams, who has led our efforts and done a terrific job. I also, of course, want to recognize Chief Yates for his efforts working with every municipality and all the police chiefs across Fulton County to provide the safety and security necessary today. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Pitts, for being our MC again today. This time we can take a few questions. Yes. Have there been any bomb threats called into this facility?
Say it again.
Have there been any threats called in for this facility?
Not yet. very concerned about it. But the good news is I don't have 177 other locations to worry about. Now we just have this location. And I think you saw when you came in a very heavy law enforcement presence here.
Let's take a look at our live voting map, which you see next to me. You can see now that West Virginia is lit up in red for Trump. Voting has also ended in 3 additional states, Ohio and North Carolina. It is too early to call the race in those states, but we will be back to you with more information. Join me to talk about these AP race calls and much more is Sagar Meghani. Hello. So let's talk about West Virginia. Is this a surprise for Donald Trump? You're shaking your head. I can already tell what you're going to say. This was expected.
This was expected. He ran up huge wins in 2016 and 2020. So a win in West Virginia shortly after poll closing, not even the slightest bit of a surprise that we've now added that to Donald Trump and given him another 4 electoral votes.
As our viewers can see on the top of their screen, that metric that's showing them the electoral votes for each candidate. So now Donald Trump is adding more to his side. What about the Senate race? So I have been following this race a little bit, and I can already tell you that people are probably starting to wonder if they're going to see baby dog Justice coming to the Senate here in Washington. Was this a surprise in the West Virginia Senate race?
It also was not a surprise, and it's an important thing to keep in mind tonight with, of course, naturally, almost all the attention on the presidential race. Control of Congress is in the balance tonight. Both the Senate, which the Democrats now hold coming into tonight, 51-49, and Republicans with a very slim House majority. That Senate, as of this moment, is now evenly split because Jim Justice is a Republican. He took Joe Manchin's place, Democrat/independent, who opted not to run again. So right now, with several more competitive Senate races, it is 50-50. And depending on who wins the presidency, control of Congress becomes a very, very big deal.
Speaking of one of those Senate races, polls are closed now in Ohio, where there is a very active Senate race. What are we looking toward happening there? Do you think that we'll see results there anytime soon?
It could be soon. It will not be soon enough for Sherrod Brown. He is the incumbent 2-term Democratic senator who was in a very tough fight against Bernie Moreno, who's a Cleveland businessman. Donald Trump backs him. This has been a very tough race, and Sherrod Brown is seen as one of those Democrats who stands a very good chance of losing his seat. And again, as we said, at this moment, a 50-50 Senate, that becomes 51-49 Republicans if Sherrod Brown cannot hang on to win a 3rd straight term.
The last of those states where voting is closing at this hour is North Carolina. That's one of the battlegrounds. We've been talking about it. We can see it with its other battleground friends here on this map. Again, remind us, when do you think we'll start to see some information coming in from North Carolina?
North Carolina tends to be among the earlier states, the quicker states to count its votes. Now, how quickly that will go based on some of that damage in western North Carolina from the hurricanes, which by all accounts has done a great job actually conducting the voting. Now the question is how quickly they can count those votes. So whereas you would usually get fairly quick results in North Carolina, might take a little bit longer than it usually does this time.
Got it. We will keep an eye out for more info, and we'll be back with you soon. Thank you all for being with us. At the top of the next hour, we will have more poll closings. Actually, the night's biggest round, 16 states plus the District of Columbia. That's a total of 171 electoral votes, including 19 from that battleground state of Pennsylvania. We'll leave you right now with live pictures as they come into us from New Hampshire, up in New England. Back with you soon with more AP race calls and poll closing information.
First major poll closings begin in the United States as voters seal the fate of Kamala Harris and Donald Trump in the race to the White House. Confident of victory, Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump says he will concede if it is a fair election. Donald Trump raises claims of massive cheating in Philadelphia. Officials dismiss it, calling it a disinformation campaign. Kamala Harris and Donald Trump pick up first wins as polls close in at least 10 states, including battleground Georgia and Ohio. FBI warns of bomb threats at polling stations in multiple US states on election day, adding that none were credible and appeared to originate from Russia.
It's election day in Washington, D.C. On first impressions, it looks like any other Tuesday with people going about their business, cars flying. But if you look closely, you see signs of how the American capital is bracing for the election result. Ever since we've landed here, we've seen things change every day, bit by bit. We've seen businesses boarding up their storefronts. We've seen government buildings being covered, being fenced. Right here is Lafayette Park, and beyond this park is the White House. You would have seen pictures of tourists coming to the US, coming to the White House and getting pictures taken in front of a railing. But that is now out of bounds. This entire area has been fenced by 8-foot metal boards. We've picking up individuals who have threatened a violent response in the event of a Trump victory or a Harris victory. So both sides on their toes really. Voting is expected to close in some time here in Washington DC and later as the evening progresses across the country because of different time zones. So we will have some indications of who's winning or who's leading only a few hours later, but security forces certainly not taking any chances as America waits for the results of one of its most consequential presidential elections.
We did a great job in that we brought it back to the states, as you know. I believe in exceptions, as Ronald Reagan did. And we did a great job. We did something that they've wanted to do for 52 years. Yes, please.
Mr. President, you talk a lot about if you win, there are tens of millions of Harris supporters who will be upset. What would your plan be to reach out to those people, bring them in? What would your message be?
Well, it'll be just that. We want to bring everybody in. We want to be very inclusive, and we will be very inclusive. We have a great country, but we have a country that's in trouble. It's in big trouble in many ways, and we have to straighten it out. We have crime is through the roof. We have people pouring through our borders that are not exactly perfect. They come out of prisons. 13,000 people convicted of murder. We don't need this in our country. We have enough difficulty. We don't need that. So I think people saw that, and it just seems that the conservatives are voting very powerfully.
President Trump, looking back.
Just finish it up. Go ahead.
How are you feeling? Nervous, anxious?
No, I feel very confident. I have felt. You know, we went in with a very big lead today, and it looks like Republicans have shown up in force. So we'll see how it turns out. But it seems that they have really shown up in force. I just got a call from Dan Patrick in Texas. He said they've never seen anything like it. It's been very good.
Looking back, is there anything you would do differently about your campaign? Anything you regret about running this campaign?
Look, regrets. You always have regrets. I can't think of any, to be honest, to use her expression. I can't think of any. Look, I ran a great campaign. I think it was maybe the best of the three. We did great in the first one. We did much better in the second one, but something happened. And this was the best. I would say this was the best campaign we ran.
President Trump, do you accept the possibility that you and Vice President Harris both might not get to 270 electoral votes by the end of tonight?
It should never happen. A thing like that should never happen. This election should be over. They spend all this money on machines. And frankly, if they'd use paper ballots, it would be over by 10 o'clock. And by the way, the paper ballots would cost 8%. It would be 8% of the cost. If they would use paper ballots, voter ID, proof of citizenship, and one-day voting, it would all be over by 10 o'clock in the evening. It's crazy. They use these very expensive computers, and I'm hearing in Pennsylvania they won't have an answer till 2 or 3 days from now. I think it's an absolute outrage if that's the case. Now, maybe it'll be later, but it's paper ballots in France. They went paper ballots because the mail-in was not working. It was corrupt. And in France, they went paper ballots. And at 10 o'clock in the evening, they had 37 million votes counted and done. They had a winner, they had a loser. And in this country, I mean, I'm just hearing that in certain states, it's going to be a long time, and it won't even be close. It won't even be that close. They say, I'm going to win the state, but it's going to take a long time to certify it.
Could you see a world where you don't declare victory tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing the same things that you're hearing. I'm hearing states where I'm up by a lot, but they won't have a final number for a long time.
What are your plans for tonight in terms of watching the results and so forth?
So we're going to have a very special group of people, many of whom you know, and they'll be at Mar-a-Lago. In addition, we'll have 4,000 or 5,000 people at the convention center. On the assumption I win, I mean, I don't know if something else happens. I don't know what's going to happen in terms of declaring victory, but if in normal times I would go over to the convention center, let's say at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock or something, but I just don't know. It looks like we have a very substantial lead. It looks like we have many more Republicans voting today than Democrats, so if you have a lead and we have a bigger vote, that means you're doing very well, but they have to call a winner. They should, and they should call a winner, yes. Just stop talking about that. Go ahead.
Of either party to that election result. And the statements today have been quite interesting. We've heard from Tim Walz, who's the running mate of Kamala Harris, saying that he believes that Donald Trump will probably concede. If he loses, Trump, on the other hand, made a statement right after casting his vote in Florida saying that he will accept the election result, quote unquote, if he thinks it's fair. And so far he thought that things were going smoothly. But later in the day, he recalibrated his position. He said that he had reports that there was massive cheating happening in places like Pennsylvania. So it's still 50-50. Which way will the result go, and how will Trump respond to that? That remains to be seen. What complicates the matter further is the kind of threats that we've seen through the day. A lot of emails with bomb threats have come out, because of which polling had to be halted in some places and polling time had to be extended. The FBI is investigating all of these cases, and they say that these emails can be linked to Russian accounts. They are still investigating. And they have made arrests through the country, picking up individuals who have threatened a violent response in the event of a Trump victory or a Harris victory. So both sides on their toes, really. Voting is expected to close in some time here in Washington, D.C. and later as the evening progresses across the country because of different time zones. So we will have some indications of who's winning or who's leading only a few hours later. But security forces certainly not taking any chances as America waits.
Algo que eles gostariam de ver em voga nos Estados Unidos. Então, a gente pode, dentro do Partido Democrata, a coisa já está se apresentando culturalmente para os setores para se mover longe das ideias da Constituição.
O Rasta comentou dessa questão do voto popular, né? Inclusive, a gente vai mostrar, o Ricardo Gomes fez uma trilogia sensacional sobre a história das eleições americanas. Está no nosso YouTube disponível. Depois eu recomendo que você assista. São 3 episódios contando desde lá de trás, né, a invenção desse cargo de presidente da República. Depois ele vai contar sobre o sistema eleitoral, por que é assim, né? Como a gente já explicou bastante, mas o porquê que foi adotado esse sistema e também sobre a história dos partidos, Partido Democrata e Republicano. E um exercício que a gente fez nesse conteúdo, né, Ricardo, foi simular como seria o sistema americano adotado aqui no Brasil, por exemplo, nas últimas eleições. Daqui a pouco eu vou puxar um VT seu para mostrar que resultado daria. Não vamos dar o spoiler por enquanto. O que eu quero puxar agora é a minha tela mostrando a atualização do Polymarket, o mercado de ações, de apostas, que já subiu para 70%. Eu vou até atualizar aqui ao vivo com vocês para ver se muda. Aí, ó, já subiu mais um pouquinho. Então, esses primeiros números confirmando até o momento o favoritismo do Donald Trump. Eu não sei se temos ainda o Ruschel para ter uma última participação antes de um intervalo para ele voltar depois, para saber se ele tem mais alguma coisa diretamente lá da Flórida. Pode falar, Ruschel.
Bom, aqui a Associated Press acabou de confirmar a vitória de Trump na Flórida. Como eu havia antecipado, uma vitória por mais de 2 dígitos. E também houve uma sinalização da vitória não só de Trump no estado do Texas, o que já era esperado, mas também um aumento de chance de vitória do Ted Cruz, que estava com um certo risco, né, uma certa distância pequena nas pesquisas para o candidato.
Eu quero ser aprovado e ganhar 20 mil reais por mês. Tá bom, mas quem é o seu mentor nessa jornada? Tem alguém que te ajuda? Ou você está indo em uma direção que você criou na sua cabeça e nem sabe mesmo se vai dar certo?
Mas pagar coach é caro.
Não é. Tem até 60 dias de graça para quem se tornar assinante premium, com até 53% de desconto até segunda-feira, 11 de novembro.
Mas eu não sei se é para mim.
Tem 30